Welcome to Ink and Magic, a podcast where we read and discuss the writing craft, world building, and romance of paranormal and fantasy novels.
If you love books with bite, set in worlds of magic and mayhem, then you're in the right place. My name's Nikisha Shanae. I go by an S.
And I'm Leslie. I write as El Penelope. And welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. We're so excited that you've joined us again for book 3 this week, Les.
Yeah, Caressed by Ice, Judd's book. I remember the first time I read through the series, I was really looking forward to Judd. I like the stoic, cold characters who are going to be warmed by love. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Judd and Brenna as well, and I've got lots to say. But I don't remember these prologues that Singh was doing. They all went over my head when I read it the first time. But it's almost like she's building a mystery, and she's giving you an important piece of the clue with every prologue that she does. In this prologue, she's talking about the Mercury Project and those twins. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And that basically this is how the Arrows were born. And the Arrows were a secret squad to take care of anyone who was an enemy to the Silence program.
Yeah. And it's like an omniscient narrator. It's great information, keeps you interested. It's a great exercise in how to do a prologue.
And it's short.
Yes, it's very short, which is important. You don't need to go on and on about it. But it's telling a story that you don't know. And I wonder if as she goes along, the books, all of them so far have had some kind of prologue. And it does. It makes you curious. It gives you important backstory, historical information told from sort of an omniscient lens. And I just wonder if that sort of narrator is going to become important at the end of the series, for example.
That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. I just thought of it as, hey, this is an important piece of information. Kind of like a teaser in TV.
Yeah, like a cold open. If you have a cold open that takes place 100 years ago, but it's really relevant to the story.
But yes, so we get this teaser, this cold open about Mercury and how the Arrows came about. And I don't remember if we have confirmed that Judd was an Arrow in the previous books, but it's definitely confirmed in this book.
Yeah, I think you pretty much know, but I can't remember either if he actually says it. I don't think he ever actually, well, maybe at some point in this book he says it. But pretty much that, okay, yeah, that's what he is.
And an Arrow is an assassin. It's a trained Psi assassin. That's what he does.
Like special forces, but only for assassinations. They're the most highly trained, most brutally trained. I mean, I think she kicks the brutality up a notch, and it just keeps going in book 4 as well. They're love stories, and there's a lot of the family and like the things that balance out the gritty brutality of it all, but it's being kicked up a notch.
It is. So we should engage trigger warnings. So if you read the first book, the heroine of this book is the woman that was the victim in the first book. This is her love story. So she was victimized, and she talks about what happened to her in this book. And I'll warn you for the book 4 as well. It another victim of child abuse.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's delving into, I guess, narratives of healing and like how the women, but in the men too. I mean, everybody basically in these worlds are traumatized heavily, but how the ones that successfully get out of it, like how does that happen? What does that look like? What does it require?
And I feel like we're jumping the gun just a little bit, but since we're bringing it up, I think it's important. I don't know what Nalini Singh's background was before she became an author, but she has a very deft hand as she is handling these abuse victims and showing them grow. It's really masterfully done. So even if you have those trigger warnings, maybe it will help you to know that she does not gloss over anything. She handles things delicately, but she puts it out there. She shows the result of this trauma, and she shows the characters arcing and growing from it.
Yeah, but it's never detailed really. I mean, it's the results of it are detailed. Like you see the impact that these events have had on Brenna, but it's never like she's giving you like things that are going to stick in your mind, which I appreciate. I don't want certain images in my head.
Yeah. So let's meet Brenna. Since we're talking about her behind her back, let's meet her. Brenna is she's one of the Snow Dancer wolves. We've been in Lucas's pack
Dark
For
River.
we've been in Dark River for the first 2 books, and this is the first time that we enter Snowdancer territory, and we figure out what's going on there and what life is like in that particular group of changelings. And
And also, they live together in this, I don't know what it is. I feel like it's a network of caves. In my mind, it was like they're all underground and everyone
yeah,
has their own apartment and there's like
yeah,
rooms and things, but it's a compound. Whereas the Dark River people all have their own houses and trees, but the wolves live all together in this underground compound. And that's also kind of different because you're seeing a lot more of the pack life than you have in the first two books.
yeah,
You're seeing
that's
the
very
wolf
true.
pack day to day, which I appreciate. It's like third book, you're expanding the world, you're getting more detailed, and it's time to kind of see how these people actually live and move through the world.
She was expanding the world. There are more, it's peopled more. So
Yes.
Brenna, poor Brenna, she's got 2 older brothers who dog her. They are on her, and it's understandable that they're on her every step. She just went through a traumatic experience and they almost lost her. But even before this, these were like the big brothers who would, in my family, I lived in a small town, but I lived in an even smaller like community in that small town, and I had family at every corner. And so when I was a little girl, and not so little, like, come prepubescent, and if a guy ever came around, was saying hi to me or sniffing me out or anything like that, my father, my uncles, my brothers would start to bark. I am not kidding.
Like literally
Like
bark.
literally bark until the
Oh
boys
wow.
went away. Yes. So I
Wow.
feel you, Brenna.
Yeah, you feel the pain. I did not have that. That is fascinating. Although my father was in law enforcement, he was a
Okay.
Secret Service agent.
All he had
So
to say.
whenever guys would come to take me out, he would like sit them down and have a talk and make sure that they saw his gun.
Oh my god.
So that was a version of barking, I guess.
Yes. So Brenna's a wolf and her brothers are wolves. So yeah, she has very overprotective brothers. And again, for a reason. She was just abducted and brutalized. But in the meet cute of this story, which happens very fast, we
Well, it's not
meet
really the meet cute because they know each other. The thing about this is there is no meet cute because they have been in each other's orbit since she was rescued in
I
book one.
I feel like it's still a meet cute because it's the first time that we're seeing them together as the readers on the
Okay.
page. So we are seeing Judd after he has a fight with this other young wolf named Ty, and it was over dominance, but we don't exactly know why, which I thought was brilliant because Nalini Singh will bring this back around
Hmm.
why that fight happened. Um, but Brenna, she tries to care for Judd after this fight, and immediately we see also that there's a death in the snow dancer on the territory. So a wolf has died,
Has
and
been killed,
he has been killed, and Judd tries to shield her from the dead body, but Brenna immediately says, "I saw this."
like in her mind. She had a vision of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that they have, we start in chapter one, they have some sort of pre-existing relationship because he being Psy and one of the few Psy in this community of wolves and still in silence, not like the kids that came with him, is not accepted by the wolves. And so, but when we see Brenna, she already cares about him. She's already concerned about him, and he's already concerned about her too, even though he believes he's still silent. Because yeah, he doesn't want her to see the dead body to be re-traumatized and also to humiliate herself because she freaks out and he kind of snaps her out of it kind of coldly, but knowing that okay, she's not going to like the fact that she completely freaked out in front of all these people and they're looking at her. So I don't I love seeing meet cutes on the page. I always feel a little bit bereft when I don't get that first eye contact, that first meeting, because we never ever see that. We don't really get a flashback exactly of what happened. We're told what happened, like he was there when she was rescued, and he helps her healing process by giving energy to Sasha, the other side who actually did, her emotional healing work. But I do, and wasn't appropriate in this book. It just kind of drops you into a couple already trying to figure things out.
That's a lot to unpack. There is the notion that Judd is still in silence and he won't let it go.
Hmm.
There's the notion of the rescue. So, because I felt like this was very much kind of a savior victim kind of romance.
From What does that mean?
And we can and
Okay.
I'll come back to that in just a second, but the other thing that I wanted to unpack is that Judd came into this new situation for his family.
Mhm.
So, if I take that kind of in order, reverse order, um, Judd is here. He's in Snow Dancer because of, his family was gonna be rehabilitated, his family of Psy. They
Not
found a
just
flaw.
that. I think they were gonna be killed, not just rehabilitated. I think they actually were sentenced to death, weren't they?
I can't remember if it was death or rehabilitation,
Okay.
which is
R
kind
But
of the same.
kinda the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. But and it's kids. It's him, his, brother, and, the
His niece
brother's
and nephew.
children and a niece. I think it
Yeah.
was 5 of them, and they were gonna be rehabilitated, including Judd, who was an arrow, who was a very valuable asset to the Sides. They were like, "There's a flaw, y'all have to go."
But he was
And
given a choice not to be. I think
oh, I forgot that.
yeah, that comes out, like, he actually chose to go with them. He because he's an arrow, because they spent so much on him, they were gonna give him a pass, essentially. So,
Okay, I forgot that. But he chooses to go with he makes the choice to Asai makes the choice
in
to
silence.
go with
He
his
wasn't like
family.
Faith, he's not like Sasha, he wasn't breaking out. He actually like, his whole wound, his whole motivation during this whole book is that he can't break silence because he believes it'll turn him into this monstrous killer that he won't be able to control himself.
Mhm.
So but even with that, he did a very non-silent thing
Yes.
when he left with his family.
Yes, left with his family to take care of his family, and then he comes, and one of the first things that he does is he helps to rescue this woman.
Mhm.
It's never really talked into detail what happens with Enrique. Enrique was the counselor who perpetuated the crimes in the first book, the crime against Brenna. But we do know that, Judd was there, and then we also learn that he did help Sasha by feeding her energy, so he was in the room as Brenna was healing, and so this is why I think that she somehow latched on to him.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, but that can't be all of it. Like, if it's just a matter of he was there when she was healing and that's the only reason. I didn't get
Not the
that.
only reason, but I think that that was an initial thing.
Maybe so. And that's why you think it's like a savior victim kind of
Mhm.
narrative, like she just latched on to the man who saved her.
Yeah, I don't wanna call it Stockholm because he didn't hurt her, he tried to heal
Mhm.
her. So I don't think it's Stockholm, but I think she sees him as her savior.
I feel like for me, I don't like that. Like, I didn't
Okay.
see it that way, but that doesn't when a romance is just like, "Oh, you are my savior, I'm gonna glom onto you," that gives her less agency, it gives
Mhm.
the relationship less vitality and, like, truth, I think. I mean, yes, she saw him as strong, as, someone that would protect her, that she could be safe with. She felt very safe with him, and probably that's why, like, subconsciously remembering him being there when she was rescued. But I think it's on their own merits. Like, for whatever reason, she's drawn to him because of his own merits, and I think that makes for a better love story in my mind.
I agree. I'm agreeing with you. I
Okay.
but I think we both can be right at the same time because I think that she did see him as a savior, and we can see her not wanting to be seen as weak. He
Mhm.
can see her not wanting to be seen as weak. And all throughout this book, she proves that she is not, she's constantly railing against, I am not weak. I'm a
Yeah.
strong snow dancer woman. So
Mhm.
I didn't see her. So victim was the wrong word for me to use, but I
Mhm.
still think savior is a huge part of their love story.
That's interesting. I guess it's like a personal pet peeve. Like, I'm not
Mhm,
attracted to savior stories, but I
mhm,
do like this one, so I'm not viewing it through that lens, but I'm not
mhm.
saying that you're wrong because that's the lens you're viewing it through, so maybe others will view it through that lens too.
If only people could disagree the way that we do, Leslie. That's their meet cute. That's how they are introduced to the readers as Judd fighting, Brenna seeking him out, and then there being a dead body. Because of course, it's Nalini saying, and there needs to be a dead body as a subplot in the background as these two people fall in love with each other.
Although I feel like as with each book, she gets a little bit more concerned with the external plot. We're getting
Okay.
POVs from the actual killer. We don't know who he is yet, but we do get a few POVs from the killer this time. We did not get that in book one.
Uh-huh.
And I'm blanking on book two. But I don't think there was a dead body
Mm-mm.
in book two.
No.
But yeah, so there's a little bit more focus on the plot, and we actually, skip to the end. We see more of the actual end of that plot line, of that subplot with this
Mhm.
killer. So
Mhm.
she does seem to be like, okay, now she's paying a little bit more attention to this exterior plot.
True. I think another thing that really interested me as Brenna and Judd were falling in love, Judd is, of course, trying to resist it because ill feelings,
But
and
also he thinks he's going to murder her. It's a little bit more than ew feelings. It's like, if I break silence, I will kill the people closest to me.
Yes. And Judd keeps a pretty big secret from her for a long time as they're going through this mating dance that he's actively trying to resist, and she's like, "No, you're on my dance card, you're dancing with me.
We're doing this,
We're doing this."
whether you like it or not, sir.
So, Brenna's, her wounds are psychic.
Mhm,
This cardinal T Enrique was a cardinal TK, telekinetic psi, and he brutalized her on the psychic plane.
mhm.
And one of the ways that Brenna is trying to heal herself is with touch because she is a changeling. And she's getting the touch from, family, from Pack, but she craves it from Judd.
And yeah, we have another situation where, just like Faith, you know, Judd has named it. What did he call it? I can't remember now. But the pain that he gets from touch,
Dissonance.
dissonance, yes, because of his, he's got a lot more and different training than either of the side we've been following up until now. And so he can control his pain, but it's literally causing him pain, just like with Faith. But he withstands it because, to a certain degree, because he knows it helps Brenna.
That dissonance becomes so important. We will come back around to
Yes.
that. Just hold, please. We will come back around to Judd's dissonance. Some other things that get introduced here, in this book, we get introduced to Caleb Krychek.
Yes, POV from Caleb.
Mhm. We also get introduced to the ghost.
The first time we meet the
Mhm,
ghost, or even hear about the ghost, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, and the reason that we hear about the ghost is because of Protocol 1,
Mhm.
which is the Psi are trying to introduce, a hive mind. So instead of each Psi logging into the net and being connected and that having their psychic minds connected, they want to implement just one mind.
By like an implant, like a brain implant at birth, basically, which would, and it would make them a hive mind, but of course, someone's gonna have control. So there's gonna be the
Mhm,
queen bees who are controlling everyone else, and it just
mhm.
becomes no individuality. Even under silence, they're still individuals. That would go away under Protocol 1. So Judd is against this. We know the ghost is some mysterious psi figure who's working against this actively.
Which is so interesting to me because the ghost in Judd, and the ghost identifies as he. Um, Judd sees the ghost.
Does he? I want to go back and see, like, does he, because if he saw him, he might recognize him. No, we don't, I didn't finish the series, so I never found out who the ghost was. I had my suspicions as I went through, so no spoilers for those of you who know as we go through the series. But I thought the ghost stayed in the shadows. Now I'd have to reread it again. I feel like he heard his voice, like they were speaking together,
Mhm.
but I'm not
I
sure.
thought they met in the church, and I may be conflating different books. It's
They
entirely
did,
possible.
I believe they met in the church, but I thought he was like in the
In the
shadows, staying in the
shadows?
corners.
You could totally be right. So these are the secret missions that Judd is going on. He's working with the ghost and another ally to try to take down this notion of Protocol 1, which he vehemently disagrees with. And I thought it was interesting because Hawk, remember Hawk is the alpha of the Snow Dancer pack. And Hawk has this really powerful man amongst his pack, which is one of the reasons why we meet Judd fighting another wolf. And one of the things that's really interesting is the pack hierarchy.
Mhm.
And everyone's trying to figure out, well, where does Judd belong? Like, what is his place? You have to have a place
Right.
in this society.
And he's purposefully kept himself on the outside. He's in all these fights because he's not accepted, but he wants to stay that way because silence, but also his own reasons. And so that becomes, by the end of the book, he has to accept a place. But I think it makes the changelings nervous on a, intrinsic level, that here's this very powerful, very strong soldier, but he's not within our hierarchy. So that has to be corrected at some point.
And they should be like, they're right to be nervous because we see as the reader, Judd's loyalty is to the ghost. It's not to Hawk, not
It's not to
initially.
Hawk, not initially, but it's also to his family. Like, he's
True.
not willing to do anything that's gonna jeopardize the kids or his brother. So, I think his loyalty is always split, and then when Brenna comes in, it becomes all about Brenna, so he'll do
Mhm.
whatever he has to do to keep that, and that includes being accepted by the pack. But also, somewhere in here, Brenna says that she's attracted to Judd's strength, you know? And I think that in terms of talking about, okay, savior, there's a difference between loving someone or being in love because they see them as a savior and they helped you in your darkest moments. And
Mhm.
also he the difference between that and someone who is just strong. Like she is trying to find and maintain her own inner strength and outer strength.
Mm.
And I think she's just naturally attracted to someone who presents strength in the way that Judd does.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of foundational element to their relationship.
I agree because all these female wolves, we haven't met a submissive wolf.
There's no betas, there's no omegas
Mm-mm. I don't
yet.
think Nalini Singh does that. Even the healers, they
Yeah,
are like,
they're like, they're not
"No."
taking anything.
Mm-mm. So, as Hawk is trying to settle Judd into a role, he gives him a mission,
Mhm.
but he gives him this what looks like a soldiery mission, but it's a cabin in the woods. He has to go to a cabin in the woods to do something, right? And here comes Brenna. Where's Judd? And Hawk tells her.
Because
So he kinda
wants
starts
this mission.
matchmaking.
Judd
Mhm.
wants the mission to get away from her. He's trying to, like, put space between them, and I think he tells Hawk that, and Hawk just goes around and tells Brenna anyway.
Sure.
It's like, "That's not gonna work."
No. So, of course, Brenna finds, Judd in this cabin in the woods where there's only one bed. I
Only
love that
one
show.
bed. It's the
Yes.
best. It's the best.
But they unfortunately, they don't end up in the bed at that point, but there's my new favorite thing that happens in there. There's domestic porn. It's my favorite. So
He feeds her? Is that what happened? I can't remember now.
okay, so they're in the cabin, and they're kind of making it homey. There's this thing called the laze fire, and they build a laze fire, and I love it. So they're getting cozy in the home, even though he's like, "Girl, you're here." And she's like, "Yeah,
Right?
I'm
But
here."
secretly, he's happy to see her.
Yes. And then there's because this is again, it's Nalini saying, and it's a lot of suspense going on here. There's intruders that they have
There's
to
an
then take
attack.
care of.
Yeah.
But this is also where we start to see just how incredibly powerful Judd is.
Right, because he basically teleports Brenna away from danger,
Mhm.
and we didn't know he could do that, and she certainly didn't know that he could do that. Now like drains his power, but he's able to get her away from danger.
Which brings up two issues. The two issues are number two, that he flames out, which we'll come back into in just a second. But number one, he's a TK, and he did not tell her that. And remember, her abuser was a
Right,
TK.
right. And yeah, she discovers that and feels betrayed by him. Feels
Mhm.
like he should have told her. Now at this point, I feel like I was writing, I really need them to kiss already. Like there's a lot of sexual tension and it's fine, but it was driving me nuts.
Okay, which brings us back to that flame outs. Because remember, there Judd was experiencing dissonance anytime that Brenna was touching him or getting too close. Because Psy are at birth, they are well, at some point when they're children, they begin the program of training the emotions out of them. And anytime they experience emotions, it's countered with dissonance, which is like pain, like a pain response, like Pavlov's
Yeah,
dog.
Pavlovian, exactly.
Yeah, which is awful. But he uses his power to such an extent that he flames out after there's a hyena attack on him and Brenna, and he uses his power to teleport Brenna to safety, and he flames out, and he's just emotion and anger, and he needs to be alone, and he needs to be silent after this, which of course is not going to work for Brenna.
They're back in the pack
They're
in the
back in the
apartment.
compound,
Right, okay.
and they're in Brenna's bed,
Mhm.
just laying down, sleeping, nothing, no hanky panky is happening.
Because he's
And
recovering from
he's
his
still
flame out.
recovering.
Okay.
And there's another dream walking where he has a
Yeah,
nightmare.
that she sees because she has some sort of Er Ernesto, that's not his name, right? Enrique.
Enrique.
Enrique opened up some sort of psychic ability within her that she can see as dreams. Yeah, another dream that's I mean, I don't know how much more common it's gonna be in the series to have this, like, shared dream
I
experience.
Yeah, I don't know, but this is not a Sasha Lucas dream. This, unfortunately, is not a sexy dream. This is a nightmare. And it's not only a nightmare, but it's really interesting that Judd dreams in black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she enters this dream that he has.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. The color is gone because of the silence. You know, it's like his brain can't see or can't dream in color. And inside don't are not supposed to dream at all. So the
Mhm.
fact that even dreaming in black and white seems to be
Mhm.
against what the Psy are supposed to be doing.
Another tidbit that Nalini saying drops at some point around this time is that Psy also can't sing because they don't have any vocal range. Their voices are flat. I thought that was
Oh.
just fascinating. But as we as Judd is basically as Brenna is forcing herself on him, Judd starts to he keeps experiencing the dissonance, but it gets not necessarily less and less, but he is able to tolerate it more and more. And he starts to break down, which he thinks is dangerous, but he's still starting to slowly trust his instincts over the silence. And he knows that when he flames out like that, the dissonance is gone temporarily.
Well, I think that that happens later. I thought that initially with the dissonance, he's afraid it will kill him. Like for a long time, it's like his ears are bleeding,
Mhm.
and he's like, if I keep doing this, if she keeps touching me, my brain will just turn into mush. You know, so it's not like he's dealing with it any better. The more she touches him, he's just willing to withstand it because he likes her touch and
Right,
he
he's willing to
wants it.
withstand it, but when he flamed out, he can't he the way that I read it is that he couldn't feel anything temporarily.
Right. That is a little bit later. I don't know. Which chapter are we on now?
I don't know what chapter.
Okay.
I know he flamed out after
There's
the hyena attack, and he went by himself for a while, and then
yes.
he came back to her.
And then he came back. So, but that's not when he was like, "Oh, I want to flame out all the time," because there's a flame out before the sex scene. That's
Yes,
later. Yeah,
yes. So we saw him flame out and go off by himself,
right.
and
Because
then come
he's
back.
gonna be unconscious. Like he's gonna be dead to the world. He needs to find a safe place to recuperate. So he
Mhm,
goes to the church at that point. He
mhm,
goes to a room in the church with the father who was helping him in the ghost, and then he comes back. He's okay.
mhm,
So
and
he
that's what
doesn't
comes
really
back,
at
he's
that
okay.
point that first flame out. He doesn't really know that he can touch Brenna during that period.
No, but he does. That is when they are just sleeping in the same bed together. But he doesn't think of doing anything more than that.
Okay.
And then the next time that he flames out, I'm interested in going to the next time. That well, actually, no, I take that back. Because I do think that it was interesting that around this time that we learned, because there's always a dead body, it's somewhere in an Nalini Singh's book, whether we see it or not. But we learned that this killer this time, because there's only been side killers, but this killer is a changeling.
Yeah, and we've gotten a couple of his POVs, so we know he had something to do with Enrique, Brenna's, tormentor, and he's afraid of getting caught. He knows Brenna knows something, so they get little glimpses of him and his motivation. But yeah, he's a wolf, and that's a huge betrayal also, because from what we know of the wolf, the pack, it's supposed to be this family. It's supposed to be this tight knit group of people who all care about each other. But of course, they're just like anyone else. There's going to be bad seeds and bad apples and all of that.
And Judd starts piecing this together, and he realizes that the danger is coming from within the house or
Right.
from within the den. And he basically does the loaded gun thing, meaning, whenever you see a loaded gun on the screen, at some point it's going to go off. Well, Judd puts up an alarm system on Brenna's door
Hmm.
that he has access to it so that he will know when something goes wrong. And so that's just laying in the back of your mind, just ticking, 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 that at some point this gun is going to go off. At some point, when Judd figures out this has to be coming from within the den, they decide to try to lure whoever this is out. And they do that by sending Brenna's brothers away. They're like, whoever is doing this, they know that if your brothers around, they're gonna keep to themselves, but they might slip up if it looks like you and your brothers are having some kind of a rift. So the brothers go away. But at some point, Brenna and her brothers are back together and they're on the road, and Judd knows that they're taking too long. And it comes to pass that the villain who we still don't know who he is. But the villain takes a shot at Brenna and misses and hits her brother.
Well, he doesn't miss. Like her brother literally puts himself in the way of the bullet, and he's shot in the heart. And I think that at that point, Judd, they're connected,
Mm-hmm.
even though a
They're
big part of
bonded.
it. What?
They're bonded.
Well, they don't know it. A big part of the problem is that there's no mating bond. Like Brenna's like, I know that he's the one for me, but I think one of her wounds in this book is that there's no mating bond and she's confused and she's like, what am I going to do? But she cares enough about him to want to push forward anyway. So there is some sort of bond because he feels, Judd recognizes, senses something is wrong
Something is wrong.
and he has to go find her. And then he finds her and her brother is not breathing. And then he uses his not just a TK cell. He's got this extra designation that's extra rare,
Of
where he can
course.
literally manipulate the cells of the body, and he rebuilds Andrew's heart, Brenna's brother, and like brings him back from the dead, essentially, like Jesus or something. Talk about
Right?
savior narratives. Like, is
See?
Judd a Jesus figure when he can fix people on a cellular level?
Yes, it's competence porn to the max, because we did forget to say that the reason that Brenna went out is because the side decided, in retaliation for what was going on in the other two books, and the changelings coming for them, the side decided to pit the changelings against each other. So that's why the hyenas attacked, and there's other changelings that are there's movements and shifting going around that the side are trying to pit changelings against each other, and the changelings decide, oh, you want to play that game, and they decide to go for the size data centers, which Brenna is excellent at, because we love competence porn. So Brenna is a great programmer.
She's like a master hacker. She was going to school for that when she was originally abducted. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, we find out whatever version of programming is in this futuristic world, she's excellent at it. And she can do anything tech wise. So,
So she was on that mission when this happened, and now we see Judd, who is not just TK, but he's beyond competent of TK, because we love our competence porn over here in Romancelandia.
yeah. And I thought that it was also interesting somewhere around here, Judd tells Brenna that he could destroy her with a thought.
Yeah.
But also later, she literally says he could destroy her with a few careless comments. So she's not concerned about his TK abilities necessarily. She's more concerned about the coldness, his words, and his not letting her in emotionally, which I thought was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've got both of these things at play. She knows, I think she knows viscerally, like on some sort of subconscious level, he'll never physically harm her. She does not believe that, but she believes that he would purposefully, like, just not by not accepting their relationship, even in a few careless comments, that she
Yeah.
could go back into some horrible hole.
I wrote down that Judd tells her while Tamsin is healing him, because this happened on Dark River territory, so he was closest to the Dark River healer.
He was attacked. Judd
When
was
he was
attacked also
attacked. Yeah. When the brother was attacked.
before.
Okay.
It's significantly before, yeah.
Okay. But at some point, he tells Brenna, I'd rather die than harm you, but anyone else I will kill without thinking. And I felt like this made him a captive to his feelings.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's also that sort of, he believes he's a villain, and the idea that, what is that saying that a villain will burn down the world to save you, save the person that he loves. And
Yeah.
we know that Judd would do that. He has
Yeah.
no problem. Does he have a conscience? He has a conscience because he loves
That's a
his
conscience.
family. But also he's fine with killing. And there's a certain point where Brenna's like, I don't want you to have to kill someone else. He's like, well, this is just what I am. This is what I do. I was
Mhm.
literally made for this. That's the only thing he believes that TK cells are good for. Now he's saving her brother's life, proves that no, there's a lot more that he could be doing with this, that the Psy have been blind to.
She almost takes off Hawk's head because she thought that Hawk made him the snow dancer assassin.
Right. And she doesn't want him to have to kill just to have a place there. She wants to save his soul, I guess you could say. And he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily believe he has one.
So back to a little bit more on the competence porn. So the Psy are trying to pit the changelings against each other, and they mind wiped the hyena changelings to make them think that snow dancer wolves were against them, and
We're
that's why
attacking their children.
and that's why they attacked. And Judd goes in with Sasha and they start to try to deprogram these people, including the children,
Mhm.
which, whoa, whoa. They're deprogramming minds. Yeah.
I think that in this book and in the next one, like, Nalini Singh is not afraid to kill a child,
Mhm.
to terrorize these children, because the
Mhm.
poor hyenas, some of their younglings were killed by Sai, and they were sort of forced into this action, and forced and mind controlled. And yeah, and there were all these like tripwire bombs inside their minds.
Tripwires in your mind.
And she does a good job making these sort of abstract concepts very visceral and easy to understand. Like we've talked about before, the sign that is like the internet, but there's firewalls and there's vaults and there's all of this imagery that you can see, even though we're talking about something happening on the mental plane. And this is the same way. So we have the Sai, and specifically Sasha's mother, Nikita, is in charge of the entire plan to make Dark River and Snowdancer fight each other and
Yeah.
basically destroy each other so they're
Yeah.
out of the way of the Psy. And it's pretty awful.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit in the beginning about how Singh very carefully handles abuse victims. But she does not shy away from it. She does
Yeah.
not shy away from it at all. So again, trigger warnings that there is abuse that happens here, but we're getting close to the sexy times. And remember that Brenna was a captive. And even though Singh makes it seem like Sai under silence aren't interested in sex, they're still curious beings. And Enrique was curious about how Brenna would respond to certain things. So Brenna alludes to not Enrique physically doing anything to her, but psychically doing things to her to test her limits. So we had to contend with this knowledge before we got to the sexy times.
Was that explained? It wasn't explained within close proximity on the page, though. I thought we had space between them actually having sex and her really detailing what happened to her.
I don't remember exactly how much, but there's a time where Brenna and Judd are not speaking. And Brenna decides that she is going to go and date
Right.
someone else.
Yes, because she kind of gives up on him, and she's like, she's gonna make him jealous. That's the thing. She wants to
Mhm.
make him jealous. I don't know if she actually intends to go through with anything. Maybe she does. She's like, if I can't have him, I might as well keep it moving. And
And changelings, Nalini says a lot that changelings, like, promiscuous isn't the right word, but they are very sexually free and sexually liberated, and it's expected. Like, there's no
and they
shaming of that.
need they need touch, because several of the books, it's like, if I don't have touch, I'll be touch starved, and that will put them in a bad mental place. So for her healing to happen, and several of
Mhm,
the other characters, her brothers, Hawk, they all know this. It's like she needs touch, and Judd's not going to be able to give that to her. So
mhm.
is she going to be okay? Is she going to continue her healing if she can't have the touch?
So she goes and seeks someone else out, and she brings this person back to her den and flips the bleep out on him.
Yeah. And it's not like, it didn't seem like he did anything wrong per se.
No, no, I don't think he did anything
He wasn't,
wrong.
like, amazing, but, he wasn't a villain, but she just scratched up his face, and then Judd comes in and threatens to kill him and nearly does kill him with his blind rage over, and then her brothers, there's a lot of this poor man, it's just like,
Yeah,
this poor
but I
wolf.
think it's because she kind of reverted into an episode back into what Enrique had done to her. She wasn't healed as well as she thought she was healed, and that's what I think, is I think that she kind of regressed
But yeah,
and
definitely, it
reverted.
had
But again, I think,
PTSD.
yeah, it's total PTSD. But I think again that Singh handled this so well. Whereas someone who was abused was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I got this." And like, "No, no, you're
Mhm.
not fine." Because one of the number one things that you're gonna need is you're gonna need a loving, gentle touch. And this person that you're just trying to pick up, he's not capable of giving that to you after like a 30-minute conversation and then y'all running back to the room. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always difficult. Like, okay, yeah, she wasn't necessarily like physically sexually assaulted by Enrique, but he did assault her sexually with like other things, like not
Yeah.
his body parts. So
Yeah.
it's always difficult when you're dealing with that. I can't say, how well or not, because I feel like in real life, there's like often, and everyone heals differently, But even a stable, healthy, trusting relationship is going to have issues when one of the partners has been traumatized in any way.
Mm.
So, this is kind of what we kind of expect from that on the page in a romance novel. She doesn't go the route where, oh, all of a sudden Judd heals her
No,
because
no.
with sex, but it's also when they do have sex, she doesn't seem to have any issues, which may or may not actually be realistic for people who have been victimized. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm. So since Singh dealt with that, I think now we can talk about the sex scene.
So there's character development that happens. We finally get it. Like I was like, when are they gonna kiss? I don't know. I don't think they make out, but in a couple scenes before this. But this only happens because after healing her brother, Judd is completely flamed out,
Yeah.
and so he doesn't have any access to his mental powers. So he's not afraid he's going to hurt her with his TK cell abilities. So yeah, they finally get down, and
And he comes in with a plan.
because he's been
This
thinking about this for decades,
Oh
apparently.
my gosh. He was thinking yeah. So I have a bit of an issue.
Okay,
My least favorite thing is when you have people love virgin heroes.
I love Virgin Heroes.
I don't know that well, I can be a fan, but I don't but perfect, skilled virgin heroes, I take issue with.
But it's a romance novel. So I don't know. There's certain things you're okay with, but this is where you draw the
This
line.
is where I draw the line. You know why? Because there's a lot of expectations that we have in romance sex that doesn't happen in real sex, and yes, we will absolutely forgive it. But then when you have an inexperienced man who doesn't make a single mistake, like that's what I'm looking for. Like I have this I have it here. I have this anthology that was published. It's called How to Write Hot Sex: Tips from Multi-Published Erotic Romance Authors. It was compiled by Shoshana Evers, who tragically passed away. And in this, my favorite essay, I think Kara McKenna wrote it. It's called Real Ugly, where she says, and I bow to this, that have like one oops in your
Mhm,
sex scene. Like have something, just the same way that we're put on a path and then there's a conflict.
mhm.
Like I think this should happen in sex scenes too. And it's so glaring when it's a perfect virgin sex scene.
I don't disagree. I'm a big fan of the oops in the sex scene too, but there's only certain kinds of books that have that or that do that. And this is not that kind. We are in a fantasy world with people who turn into leopards and wolves. So we're going to have our oops free sex scenes. And I would think it would actually be out of place in this type of story. You have like more realistic romance authors who are going to give you like a Noelle Adams, for example. It's
Mhm.
all about the oops. It's all about the awkward moments. And she's one of my auto-buy romance authors of just contemporary.
Yeah.
But she's all about the awkward moments, the misunderstandings of everyday life, and that's how she writes her books, where you have someone who's more over the top, who is not going to give you anything approaching reality because it's the total fantasy, even in the contemporary, of a romance. So when we're in this world, there's
Mhm.
a version of a fantastical paranormal romance world where there are the misunderstandings of everyday life, and then you have room for the oops sex. But I don't think that's the world that Nalini Singh has created or is interested
It
in.
is not. She did it.
I take your point that, yeah, but I don't have, I mean, I'm suspending lots of disbelief on many levels, and I'm willing to give Judd the virgin expertise that he has.
Speaking of suspension, here I segue. This dude, because before the sex scene, this dude, he channels all of his anger and his rage at something that happens into pleasing Brenna and freaking makes this woman levitate.
Yes. Talk about fantasy, right? Like levitate. He can later he touches her with his TK power like all over. Like he can extend the reach of all of his limbs and appendages with TK, which is like I don't feel like she went as far as she could have gone there.
What? Okay. Okay. So yes, Judd is a virgin and he is an expert because he has done his research, which yay, go you guy.
And he
Um
knows every cell of the human body. So like, yeah.
so they have a lovely sex scene that is very hot and I'm not saying it's not hot. I am not saying that at all. I'm just like, really? He's perfect. I will get over myself. But after this, the bond is clearly formed, and she begins to also anchor him in what was his dissonance because he's about to break silence.
But also, they raise the stakes after the sex scene because he still believes that this relationship will leave him brain damaged. He could only have sex because he had flamed out.
Mhm.
He thinks, how can I flame out some more so I can have sex more? He's not even, at that point, he's still not like, I need to break silence. He's not convinced yet. So I like that the stakes keep getting raised because it's like, well, I might kill her. Well, maybe if I don't kill her, my brain will explode because of the dissonance, and he is bleeding from his ears still and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still having some issues. I think it's important to note too, because we brought up the idea that what is Judd's place in this pack,
Hmm.
and after his dealings with the hyenas, and after his saving Brenna's brother and basically repairing his heart, Judd is not only given the rank, was it lieutenant? He's given
Yeah.
the rank of lieutenant, and Hawk does a blood bond with him,
Hmm.
but also the rest of the pack automatically accept him, which is interesting because now they're patting him on the back and they're talking to him, and he's like, "Whoa,
It's
whoa,
not,
whoa."
but that happens because he saved Andrew. I think it's separate from him being a lieutenant, which I think is nice. It's not just because he was
Mhm,
promoted. It's
mhm,
like you saved, and everybody loves Andrew, I guess. We don't know that much about him except he's kind of harsh to his sister,
mhm.
but he did this impossible thing.
Yeah,
And they don't exactly know how, no, but they're not sharing his specific abilities.
yeah.
But yeah, now he's embraced, whereas before he was tolerated because the children, but he was always like one step in, one step out. So between Brenna, Andrew, and being a lieutenant, he has completely allowed himself to be included in this found family.
So I know more stuff happens after this, but I was just like, "Yeah, okay, subplot."
They do find the killer on the page this time. We get to see him being taken down, right?
Mhm.
And that was good. They don't kill him, they put him in jail. And they discover that, he
Because
was
he's
selling.
a changeling, he was of this pack.
He was a wolf, yeah. He was selling drugs to them, and he was responsible for Brenna getting kidnapped. He was
Yeah.
somehow working with Enrique for money, just his
Mhm.
only motivation was money and that huge betrayal. So we know he's going to die.
We
But
don't see it.
yeah, when Judd doesn't have to do it, the pack justice, because pack justice is what it is. It's like they're very death penalty
Mhm,
oriented society.
mhm.
So, but
How
I
can you
think
come
it
back from that?
right. Yeah, there's no rehabilitation. They don't have space for that, and this is a
Which
bad
is
state.
like this, which brings us back to the Psy then, because the Psy wanna rehabilitate people, and it's like you're gonna, how can you come back from that? You're gonna be basically a vegetable.
Yeah, well, because their rehabilitation is only to make them a vegetable. They're not trying to help anybody, you know. The other thing that happens, we first hear about Ashaya Aline, who is the
Mhm.
scientist behind Protocol One, and she's going to be important later. But we're getting so Nalini Singh is planning out multiple books ahead. So as a pantser, it's very
Mhm.
impressive because she must have in her mind, even if she never writes it down, what's happening because she's seeding the ground. She knows who the ghost is. She knows what's going on. She's giving us clues to lots of things in every book. We're
Mhm.
working 2 or 3 books ahead. So I think that's also nice. And it fits in, it's woven in a way that it, you kind of just see her growing as a writer as she moves along,
Mhm.
which is also cool.
Mhm.
And in the very end, we have this really lovely epilogue because also we didn't mention that one of the things that was taken away from her during her captivity, she can't shift into a wolf for the whole
Oh,
book.
I forgot about that.
And so we have this lovely epilogue where she finally gets to shift into a wolf again after she makes love to Judd. And it's so cathartic. It's like because they've had such a long
Mm.
road, like personally, I was frustrated because like I like to get the kiss out of the way soon, like quickly, at least by the midpoint. I don't think we had a kiss by the midpoint. I don't remember, but I was like still at, 75% in or 60% in, like, okay, we've been through all of the drama with these people and we want to luxuriate in the relationship some. And so I think we got a little bit of that in the epilogue where it's
Yeah.
just joy and the joy of shifting and her life moving on and, her healing progressing.
Yes. Good job, Leslie, for bringing it home because, after the sex scene, I was like, "Okay, I'm good. Smoking a cigarette."
You literally have no notes after the sex scene.
I really don't. I really don't. I mean, I do, but I don't. Nothing. I'm like, yeah, this happened, then this happened, but nothing that I want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, I guess, other stuff. We're seeing other characters
Mhm.
that are going to be coming into play more in the future,
Yeah.
and yeah, all of this good stuff, which is interesting because the next book we're back with leopards, and we don't see Clay at all in this book, I don't think.
No.
Um, so she does sort of jump around, but
I
sticking
wonder
here.
I wonder what made her decide this order.
Me too. I was thinking that when I was reading book 4, which we'll be talking about in 2 weeks, if you want to read along. But yeah, we spent all this time with the wolves. We see a couple of leopards because they have to meet with Lucas. They go to Tamsin's house, the leopard healer, when Judd is attacked. So we're still touching base with some of the leopards and keeping those storylines going. But for the most part, we're very wolf centric, and we kind of Psy centric too, with the Psy machinations that are happening. We get some scenes from the council's POV. We get touch in with Caleb. But yeah, the order is interesting. And I guess maybe it's the external order, or maybe she just whatever she felt
Mm.
like. But the first 3 seem kind of linked. They're very, we meet
Mhm.
Brenna and Judd in the first book, and we get all of that. Now we meet Clay in the first book too, and Clay is the hero of book 4. We do not ever meet his love interest because she pops up new in book 4.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, as it goes along, I wonder if it's just inspiration striking, or it's just in service to the
Mhm.
larger story arc of, okay, now we have to get these people because we need them for books 5 and 6 and things like that.
That's fair. But yeah, this was a good one. This was not necessarily my favorite, but this was definitely one of my favorite heroines.
Mm. It's one of my favorite heroes. I do like Jed, but I like, this the silent, literal strong silent type who is moved by love to have emotion. I was writing like, is this a grumpy sunshine? I mean, not that Brenna is sunshine, but he's definitely grumpy. It's a
He's
version
grumpy
of
sassy.
grumpy sassy. Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I love a sassy heroine who was like, "No, I want you. You need to get with the program. You have no choice." I love a woman who acts like that, and the guy's is like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, she is very focused on her goals and getting what she wants, and I
Mhm.
love that about her. And it's sort of the opposite of Vaughn and Faith because she's Vaughn in this situation, and
Mhm.
she's pushing at him like this is what, not necessarily from a perspective of this is what you need, but this is what I need, and
Yes.
you have to give me what I need,
Yes.
which is great.
That's a good point. It's totally reverse Vaughn and Faith.
So yeah, up next we will be talking about
Mind to Possess,
Mind to
and
Possess.
you trigger warnings. This is a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But we will get into it. I mean, she handles it well, but it is a tough one, so
Mhm.
be aware. But yeah, I'm so excited to get through more of these books and back in the world. When I'm not in the world, I feel like I want to be back in this world,
Oh,
which
that's the
is,
best feeling.
yeah, it's the best feeling. It's the mark of just really great writing and storytelling,
And world
and
building.
even and world building. Yeah, and even in stories that aren't my favorite, it's like I'm still drawn through and drawn in, and she's expanding and giving us more each time. So
Mhm.
so now it's time for everyday magic. And as what is a magical moment that happened in your life recently?
It's happening while I am writing my current book. And you just get those moments where things just click into place. Sometimes I'm just writing, I'm word vomiting on the page, just trying to get to the next chapter. But in the book that I'm currently writing, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling,
Yay! My
yay!
favorite. I love Beauty and the Beast stories.
I love any type of fairy tale retelling. I love to retell stories in a new and fresh way. Um, but in a sense, my beauty is the beast, and she has this like Leslie and I were just talking about grumpy sassy, and this is totally a grumpy sassy book. So Leslie and I went to this academic romance conference where we learned that there was someone trying to build the biggest archive of Black romance, and I totally stole that and gave that my job to my character, gave it to my heroine, and so my heroine is trying to build this archive, and she reaches out for someone for help. She reaches out to her mother, and it doesn't go the way that she wants, but it's my heroine who, because she loves romance novels so much, she's afraid of relationships lasting too long because she knows they're going to come to a dark moment, and she gets to the dark moment and it's not with the hero. It's with her mom, and it was really cathartic, and I was really proud of myself for figuring out how to make this romance between this man and woman also be about her actual family. So yeah, that was my magical moment in the dark moment of my book.
Magical moment of creativity.
What about you, Les?
So I have been doing these meditations on Friday morning. It's called Artist Morning, and it's a Zoom call basically with this meditation teacher who's a photographer in Canada. And there's like between 70 and 100 people usually on Zoom, and it's like 20 minutes of meditating, and then you do 20 minutes of journaling, and then afterwards people can kind of share. And I really enjoy it. And this morning I did it. And it was just a beautiful meditation. I felt really moved. And then afterwards, when people were sharing, there just some interesting things came out, and the community of strangers all over the world coming together to support people, and just the energy is so good and positive. And I highly recommend it. If you're interested, it's called Artist Morning. It's at artistmorning.com. It is every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And it's just a nice, beautiful way to start the day, and to start it with creativity and energy and love and meditation and quieting your mind and connecting with things. So yeah, that was my everyday magic today.
That sounds absolutely lovely. I might just have to check that out myself as well.
Definitely should come.
So that's another one in the can. So we want to thank you guys so much for joining us. And please do let us know what you think. You can leave a comment on YouTube with your thoughts on this episode. You could also share it with a friend who loves romance, particularly paranormal romance and Nalini Singh. But also make sure you rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can always check out our book schedule on our website, inkandmagic.net, so that you can read along with us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.